Hello and welcome to the A.D.H.Deep-Dive, the show that's not about ADHD but is filled with proof it exists. My name is David J. Mund, and it's just me again this week. And I really don't actually know how long we will be going today, because there's a lot of conversations that I want to have that I am actually more looking forward to having with the guests that I plan to talk about these things with, namely this huge show that our band Midwest Skies, just had at a local venue in Grand Rapids called the Pyramid Scheme. I guess I'll briefly tease the conversation in saying that it was a top 5 moment of my life. That is a core memory. That was an amazing experience, and it really felt like something that I never thought I would experience again. Um, again, I'll talk about it with both Kyle and James. I'm going to be having on separately, the other guys from the band, because I feel like we have individual, independent conversations that we could have with each other, unless we all got together and shot for like a 4-hour episode, which is possible, but I think it would be more palatable if we did them separately and we could talk about these things individually. But anyways, yeah, that was an amazing, amazing show, amazing experience. And I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more. I also plan to, one of the episodes I did a few weeks ago, I think I called it Losing My Faith in Faith. I had briefly mentioned my former youth pastor in that story, and how we've kind of reconnected as friends, although we believe in a different version of the afterlife. It hasn't really like ripped our friendship or anything like that, so I believe that he's going to end up making an appearance on the podcast at some point. But right now, it's just me, a can of what do we got? Blueberry pomegranate AHA sparkling water, which I'll sip now. My pups, who are fast asleep right beside me, actually in my bed, because I don't know, there's something happening with me every time I try to set this up, that like I'm never fully content with how the backdrop looks, and so I always have to change it. And I mean, where I shoot is my bedroom, so it's like hard for me to get it styled how I want it to look, but also make me feel at home in my room. I've got new lights and stuff that I'm trying out, so it might be a little less compact in my bedroom. But the room that was once the office is now sort of turned into what's going to be like a photography studio that I'm really trying to do. So I've got my like flat backdrop up with a green screen up as well, some white foam boards along a side wall, just to try and make it easy for me to like just pop in and do photos of whether it's a person or a product or something. I just want to be able to just get in there and go. And that's also where I do my yoga, which I will be doing right after this, because I have been delaying, I have been stalling. There's something about yoga when I do it at home by myself, where like, I mean, obviously I've mentioned it a few times, I have a really serious binge eating addiction. And so I try to come up with these strange justifications for like eating before. Like usually my routine used to be roll out of bed, have my first cup of coffee. As soon as I'm done with the cup of coffee, and somewhere in there, I let the dogs out. Right after I'm done with that last sip of coffee, I do my yoga. Then I get up, do my dishes, or any dishes from the night before, or make breakfast and then do my dishes or whatever. But I was also like really diligent about sticking to a routine for a while there, because my life seemed to just, it worked naturally that is the way that I would operate. So I would wake up at 6:30, maybe hit snooze until 7 o'clock in the morning. But I gave myself a half hour to an hour to just do the mindless shit. Just scroll, just do kind of whatever while I sip the coffee. Chill with the dogs, maybe read something. Likely not read something. I'm probably on Reddit. And then yeah, I roll out of bed and I do my yoga after that. And I don't know. I just, the way that my life is operating now, I'm up a lot later now. I'm up. I should be in bed by like midnight, but I'm scrolling on my phone until like 2 in the morning. Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm pitching out a bunch of first world problems, and I'm also sort of dealing with a bit of like work insecurity. Tax season is coming up, and I'm a 1099 contractor, so I owe way more money than I thought I was going to owe. And of course, my broke ass had to tap into my savings that I set aside for Uncle Sam. Man, lots of rumbling going on outside. But it's a beautiful day. Let's stop whining, David. It's a beautiful day outside. I've already gotten out, went on a nice walk with the dogs. We've all eaten our breakfast. I just haven't done my yoga yet, and that's a really big centering part of my day. I do it every day, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll go and I'll do hot yoga at a studio, which feels more of like an intense workout, which I really, really, really like. I don't think that I have it in me to be like a weightlifter anymore. I mean, like I know everybody should do exercise and lift weights and cardio and all that, but I feel like for my body type and my mental attitude, yoga is both a workout and a mind centering activity, but I should probably get out and maybe run a bit more. I'm just not really much of a gym bro. And I don't like that attitude. I don't like, well, this may sound dismissive. Sorry, I'm really not trying to shit on getting fit, because obviously, like, it's the most healthy thing in the world that you could do. Um, I just, I don't know. I used to be a football player, and, going to the gym was my life. Hashtag FitFam. Um, and then I got fat, and then I got annoyed with the gym, and then I lost weight the wrong way and was like, oh, see, you don't need to go to the gym. And so I just equated an unhealthy relationship to going into a gym. I'm just saying I like yoga, dog. Freaking namaste and shit. Get out of my face. But yeah, I mean, the financial stuff, it's like I've referenced it a few times on the podcast that like I'm getting really proud of myself that I can see ultimately, like, in order to get to that final step, which I don't really know what that final step is, but I know that I am on the path to do that. And I know that, like, the most important part is, like, that strike of luck that may come, along the way, but I won't get that strike of luck if I don't, actually work for it. But man, the grind is insane. Like, I'm still going through that phase where like I'm trying to seek out the creative jobs. There's not a whole lot of creative jobs coming to me. And you know it, I know it, imposter syndrome, blah, blah, blah. Anytime I send out that email or talk to that person face to face about trying to convince them to invest in their business, I'm like, you should. I have a website. I'm a photographer, and I do some video directing and like some ads, and like, so do you want to pay me? That doesn't work very well. I don't think that it's necessarily a confidence issue, because I feel like, well, maybe it is a confidence issue. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. I don't really have an agenda for this week's podcast. It's freaking Saturday, and I upload on Mondays, and I needed to get a solo episode out to kind of break up some guests, and I realized that maybe there was some shit I had not processed or talked about, but again, I'm running into this brick wall where like a lot of the stuff I want to talk about is with the guests that I want to talk to them about. The show being the main thing, that was the big thing that happened to me recently. And I mean, I can say that I'm in a lull post show because I just got this huge adrenaline high. And then, as always, it's like, great, I reached the mountaintop. There's not a lot of air up here. I need to get down. And then I get down, and then I'm like, oh man, I really want to climb back up. But man, that was a hike. That was a shitty analogy. I'm just saying I'm in a lull post show. don't have a lot of jobs right now. I have a lot of like things that are going to happen soon, but I have a problem with waiting for things because like you're supposed to be in the moment, right? Well, the thing I want to do is a few weeks from now. The thing that can make me feel present, because I'm very present in my creative pursuits and my jobs, So when I'm shooting a music video or shooting a wedding, like I'm there. I'm laser focused. I'm doing what I need to do. When I'm playing a show with the band, I'm like, I know that I have a job to do. I've got a click track going in my ear, and I am focused. And then you do some witty banter along the way, but like it's a set list. I am structured in what I am supposed to do that day, and I love it. And I do sort of love structure. I hate forced structure, but structure does help me ultimately. And when I know that something is coming up and I know that I have something to do, I can like plan and arrange and like get ready for it. But I'm not there yet this year. I've still got a few months until anything big. And I'm just searching and hoping and waiting and wanting to do things. And I'm like, still, I want to shoot short films. I want to get back into narrative content. I don't know what's getting in my way shooting stuff by myself. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to just be by myself. I could shoot and act in my own little skits and sketches and stuff, but that's not really fulfilling to me. I love making things with people. And right now, there's just no plans in place to do that. I do have some mid-April plans to shoot an attempt at like a short narrative project, but this might be more of a creative expression to like to practice something. I don't know if it's something that will go public. And I don't know. This is probably the fundamental problem, the most real problem that I'm experiencing creatively, is for some reason, I know you're just supposed to make stuff that you enjoy. You're supposed to make stuff that you like. And don't worry about other people watching. But that's not really why I'm in it. I'm not in it, for the views. And sorry, this chair is still ridiculously creaky. I'm not in it for the views, like to see the numbers rack up. I love the engagement. I love like knowing that people related or were intrigued by or inspired by or motivated to start by something that I did. I just like sharing that experience. It's very validating. So anytime I shoot something for myself and I'm like, wow, David, you're getting a lot better, I like get in my head about like, I'm not worried about getting better. I just want to share this with you. Yeah, I don't know. Hang on. The dogs are about to go through a barking mania, a frenzy. Just give me a second. They're going to bark. Okay, now that I've viciously brutalized my dogs as punishment for their barking crimes, they're currently both strung up by their legs upside down in the living room. That's how I punish them every week. Do I legally have to say that that's sarcastic? I don't know. I feel like it's very clear that I'm kidding. Anyways, yeah, I the main reason I'm even doing this episode is to kind of tell you I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to be talking about this week. But again, I have this validation, or not validation. I have this I don't know. I feel like I have this responsibility to you, the audience, and to me, myself, to be consistent, because consistency is the only thing that will keep me. Like, I mean, beforehand, I was like setting up 50 different angles to shoot this podcast. I've shot this podcast, 20 times by now? 21 times? I don't know. A lot of times. And I still can't I can't lock it down. I can't decide what I want the backdrop to be or what I want a specific view to be for the video version. But like 5 minutes before I ever hit the record button on the camera, I'm like, let's just not. Maybe I should just not this week. And I have to get past that. I've got to get past the let's just not. Let's just give up. I have to get past the give up mentality. So this keeps me accountable. Y'all keep me accountable. So the two main things that I wanted to talk about is that A, I don't really have much to talk about, but B, I don't know if this episode will be. Maybe I'll dual upload this episode to both channels, but starting next week, officially, from here on out, that sparkling water is making me all burpy. Starting from here forward, we're going to have a separation of David J. Mund and the A.D.H. Deep Dive. I'm not leaving the show. The show is just moving YouTube channels. So you can, I'll include a little subtext here saying what the channel name is. I can't remember if I made it A.D.H. Deep Dive or A.D.H. Deep Dive podcast, but you can click the link in the description of this video or in the description of the audio version, and I will include a link to the YouTube channel separately for you to subscribe to. Like I said, there's some intentional separation coming so I can shoot the narrative content and streamline it to the David J. Mund channel, and then the podcast, and then the work. So like the work stuff is probably going to end up being Mund Media again. Somebody once convinced me that I shouldn't be Mund Media because there's like liability issues there. If I like hire somebody to do a video or something and then whatever, something goes awry and then it's on Mund, my last name, or like a PR issue. But you know what? I don't give a fuck. Okay. I just want to separate the work from the business, the podcast from the business, from the self-fulfilling stuff. And the podcast can have an audience of its own, while my work can have a clientele of its own, while my narrative stuff can have its own audience. I'm hoping to separate the three, but it's just, I hate juggling YouTube channels. I've made hundreds of freaking YouTube channels throughout my life. I mean, goddamn, I got on the app. It wasn't even an app. Yeah, I got on the website in freaking 2007, 2008, something like that. Well, it would come out in like 2006 or something. Anyways, I've been on it since the start, and I've had a million different channels because I've been uploading since the start. I've always uploaded to YouTube. It's always been my preferred medium, whether I'm doing vlogs or skits or short films or now podcasts. But each one of my separate creative pursuits, whether it's the work, the podcast, or my independent work, my independent narrative stuff, each of those have their own love, but they have their own brand for the most part too. Like I hate talking about myself as if I am a brand, but I mean, at this point I kind of have to, right, in order to like separate the entities. So I'm just kind of struggling with that a little bit, but yeah, going forward, the A.D.H. Deep Dive podcast will have its own YouTube channel. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get the audio version, none of that is going to change. You're going to still have access to it under the same name. If you're following me, nothing's going to change there. But the YouTube channel video version itself will have a different home. And then my work stuff, I mean, I don't really feel like that's relative to this audience anyways. At a certain point, maybe it will be, but then, yeah, so the David J. Mund channel, YouTube specifically, if you're subscribed to that, the hope is that there will be some actual scripted video content there soon. It may go dark for a little bit as I struggle to deal with the imposter syndrome of uploading, and the time management of even shooting the stuff in the first place. I feel like I have these big lofty goals that are like, I'm really trying to go for it. Like I really am swinging for the fences here. Swinging for the fences? Swinging at the fences? What am I swinging for the fences for? Does that mean I'm swinging so hard that the ball goes over the fences? Or am I... That's probably it, right? Swinging for the fences. Shooting for the basket? Really going for gold here. I've lost my train of thought with my analogies. That's it, okay? What an entertaining podcast. The fact that you listen to me weekly and then every once in a while I have maybe a 30-second snippet of something interesting to say, but you have to go through 92-ish minutes of other garbage of me just projecting and whining and complaining to my guests or myself to the void out loud. I appreciate you for that. I really, 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 really do. I heard a podcast recently where somebody who deals with this type of like mental insecurity that I do as well was talking about how they apologize at the end of everything that they do, like whether they're doing stand up or they're doing a podcast. They're like, I'm sorry, I didn't really have much to talk about this week. I'm sorry that sucked. I suck, but thanks for coming out. And they talked about how they're trying to phase that out because, like, regardless of how I feel about myself, you, the audience member, are here. You are tuning in. You are listening. You are validating me. So, like, I shouldn't apologize. However, I should just thank you. Thank you for having the patience to listen to this weekly. Because, like, sometimes it's more of, especially when I'm editing these, I can realize in real time that, like, dude, you got to go back to therapy. I can see the arc of my mental health. And I don't know where it's at. Are we on an incline? Are we on the way up? Because right now my head is like cranked and I'm just staring to the sky, wondering what is next. Am I still going? Am I still going up? Or am I about to drop? Or when I get up there, is it just going to be steady? And I just coast. And then it's a nice ride. Or is this one of those roller coasters where you just dip and dive and... Moment of silence for my anxiety. Though existing in that silence right there really reminded me how much I need yoga and how badly I need it. I don't care if this sounds a little pompous or preachy or whatever, but holy cow, meditation is so good for you. And I get it, man. Like doing meditation on its own, especially A, as a stoner, B, as a dude with ADHD, the brain is just going and going and going, and it doesn't stop. It never shuts the fuck up. Oh man, I had a really nice note that I recently had pinned up to my ceiling. It said something along the lines of, when I'm in crowds, I feel alone. But when I'm alone, I feel crowded. Something along those lines that, like, dude, there's so many voices up here. There's so many opinions and insults all hurled directly at me. They're all in my own voice. It's just me layered on top of each other, layered on top of myself, whatever. That chatter, especially in meditation, is tough to get through. So what I've found over the years is that really the only way I can do that is through yoga, because yoga is even harder than turning my brain off. Sometimes I do set myself up for kind of challenging practices, but the breathing is the more important part, because if I'm not breathing, I can't get through the exercise. So I have to remind myself to breathe and focus on breathing deeply. And that's the first challenge in meditation, is just like focusing on something else, namely your breath. It's good for your oxygen to cycle through your body, but it's more important to learn how to focus and just shut out the noise. If not destroy the noise, just tune it out for a little bit. It's okay. Be present. You're here. You're alive. Keep breathing. Finding my center has been probably the most, well, maybe let me try to find a way to say this less pretentious. in my yoga journey, the last year of my life has been the most important. Let me say it even better. I don't know if this is the best, but on the journey toward finding myself, getting into yoga was one of the best decisions I have made. I still have my addictions with food, and stress obviously has an impact on weight and health. And I have I don't know if we'll use the word traumas, but I have my history with weight gain and weight loss in large quantities, both directions. But when I'm doing my yoga, I just let all of that go. I let every single bit of it go. Because getting through the practice is that last breath after you come out of corpse pose, Shavasana. And then I do a little bow to myself. It's like that one last purge of breath is the most rewarding feeling, because it's not anybody else's validation saying, "You're good, David. You are loved," or you did a good job. It's me. It's me telling myself, "Holy shit, David, you did it. You got through that. That was hard, and you did it." So maybe it's important for me to bring back an old quote that I would love to get tattooed on my body at some point, because I think it's time for me to phase out this episode because I gotta go do yoga. Keep going. I am stressed the fuck out, people. All right? I am stressed the fuck out. But I see the path. I don't see the light. I just see the path. And I just got to keep going. And so do you. So, thanks for tuning in and all that. Let me remind you, the A.D.H.Deep-Dive podcast has its own YouTube channel now. I don't know that this episode will be uploaded to it, but if you click the link in the description, you will be able to subscribe to it. It might be empty, but definitely going forward next week, uploads will happen there. I'm not going to delete the old episodes off of the David J. Mund channel. Definitely not yet, because they're still getting some views and stuff. But they will be separated as their own identities as I work to find out who I am as an artist. So thank you for joining the A.D.H. Deep Dive, the show that's not about ADHD, but was just clearly proof that it exists. I love you. Keep going. And I'll see you next week.